Good morning, welcome to Headline Focus here, live on Core Politics with me, Rob Double. It is the start of the week, Monday the 19th of February. Let's have a look at what's making the political news today. So to start off with, Theresa May is reviewing tuition fees across England. Now, this is a big policy announcement today from the government. A lot of media storm about it over the weekend. Indeed, they're pushing it very heavily this morning as well. The Prime Minister will launch a year-long review of university and adult technical education, calling for better value university courses for students in England in particular. Now, what does this include? Well, nothing's really been put off the table, to be honest with you, in terms of tuition fees. One of the key points being put across by the Conservatives is the possibility of having varied fees dependent on the course students take at university. So that might be dependent on how useful, how economical a course is, the quality of the course itself, and how it affects the student's future career as well, the economic employability prospects after doing that course. Also, what's being actively considered, or reportedly to be actively considered, are the return of university maintenance grants for the poorest students, lower tuition fees for courses that are cheaper to run. So, for instance, doing a art subject as opposed to doing a medical degree, obviously different in terms of duration, but also in terms of the amount of contact hours and lab time and facilities and stuff like that. More investment in technical education, more 2-year and part-time courses, so away from that strict 3-year undergraduate course for students, and cuts to student loan interest rates as well. So really completely the whole area of tuition fees and funding for further education and further tuition, both adult and for sort of people in the student years, completely being thought through. The Prime Minister is due to give a speech shortly after 1 p.m. today at a location in Derbyshire. Now, why are the Conservatives doing this? What's the ambition here? Well, part of this is part of Theresa May's social justice, or tackling social justice, something she has always said in her speeches, though not really done anything on while she's been Prime Minister until this point. There's also an element of, for younger voters, wooing younger voters, and also parents of younger voters who are worried by the levels of student debt which students at the moment accumulate as a result of taking further education on. Is it practical, however? Now, there have been a lot of scepticism from prominent voices within the education institutions, within the area, but also other politicians about how practical this is going to be, how expensive is it going to be for the Conservative Party to shore up, for example, lowering tuition fees or cutting the level of interest rates on student loans. And in terms of the political context as well, it was the Conservatives, of course, who in government, in coalition with the Lib Dems, raised the tuition fees to £9,000 a year, something which will no doubt be fresh in the minds of those who have just gone through the university system. And the Labour have, of course, promised free university tuition and include cutting the debt of those who have already paid up in the years gone by. So where is the political space here? Well, we'll have to wait and see, I suppose, but there is certainly a challenge there for the Conservatives to make ground. Next story, Michel Barnier, the chief EU negotiator, is meeting with two big meetings today, really, in Brussels. First one is Hilary Benn and the Commons Brexit Committee for private talks. That will happen sometime today. But then the key one, which is very interesting, is Michel Barnier will meet with elected leaders of 10 of England's biggest cities outside of London. So outside of the bubble of London, over into some of the biggest cities, perhaps up north, as well as down south as well. It's named the Core Cities Group, and it will press for a deal that helps the positive flow of trade and skilled people between cities post-Brexit. Now, the EU is currently finalising its position, of course, on the transition period, just as the UK is due to be this week as well. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of these meetings. Corbyn is, of course, convening as well his meeting in London of his Brexit subcommittee of senior shadow cabinet ministers and officials, where it's hoped Labour will give some clarity as well on the Brexit position. So it's real Brexit clarity week. We hope this week, of course, whether that actually happens, it depends how sceptical you are really of Brexit at the moment. But the key thing for this is that Barnier is looking at more regional level as well as the national level, the Theresa May, Jeremy Corbyn, and national politicians level as well. Final story then, Anti-Brexit party is launched. Now, a new Anti-Brexit party is launching at noon in Westminster today. It's called Renew. And aiming to, as it quoting here, we want to use a people-centred approach to drive the country, consulting real people in the decision-making process to find real solutions. Now, the three priorities identified by this new party is to renew the economy by making the UK an innovation superpower, to invest in infrastructure and research labs in vital technologies, particularly batteries, biotech and artificial intelligence, to reduce inequality and to rethink Brexit. Now, what does that mean? Well, this party would put pressure on politicians to offer a second referendum on leaving the EU. So hopefully some interesting lines coming out of that as well. We're going to try and get one of the people from Renew on later this week as well to hear from them as to what their actual political ambitions are. That's pretty much it for today. You're up to date. Don't forget you can find all the latest on what we're doing here on Core Politics, on our Facebook page and on our Twitter right here. But from me and all the team here at Core London, have a fantastic start to your week.